Southern River Band just out of Thornley. The boys banging their heads away. Welcome to the Shelter FootyCast review, round 21. It was a big weekend of footy. I am joined by Mark Reddings. I'm your host, Will Schofield. G'day, Skate.
Yeah, g'day, Scully. Might take my Kia from Osmond Park down to Thornley and see the boys and have a chat to them at some stage. Look, there's positives and negatives. The positives are that I'm here this morning. The negatives are my tipping was just horrendous.
Not in the week you told me how good you were going to be.
Yeah. Talk about blokes giving themselves the rap, and I was pantsed by you and everyone else who tips on the weekend. But yeah, that's look, an amazing round of footy. You sound a bit exhausted from a big round of footy.
All duck, no dinner for Mark Reddings. It was a big weekend. I'm a little bit tired, but that's okay.
Fatigue.
Yes, West Australian theme here. West Coast Eagles. Freo Dockers, we'll get into those. You can find us on socials, Shelter FootyCast, or send us an email, footycast@shelterbrewing.com.au. We'd love to see your emails. Big week coming up at the end of this week, Skeet. We've got an event down at the Federal Hotel Friday evening.
Yeah, that'd be great. I've just got to find a way to get home from from there if I do have a shelter or two. But looking forward to that. I think it's a pretty big game on Friday night footy as well, because every game involving those top 8 sides becomes really significant. But yeah, looking forward to meeting some of the folk down there and heading down to Freo.
Do a bit of a derby preview. Of course, the Fremantle home derby is happening this weekend. Tom Cole's going to be down there, West Coast player, I believe. Potential Lee Spur, the Freo Dockers legend. Backman. Only Backman. Cole, Spur, Schofield.
Oh, no. And then the only forward who could do anything with productivity is Reddings. What about Spur? He has enough trouble pronouncing Smith at the best. Imagine if there's a couple of shelters into him on Friday night, because he can butcher a name.
All right, well, if you know Mark Reddings and I are just carrying on here, then add Spur to the mix and it'll be very, very good. That's this Friday at the Federal Hotel. Make sure you get down there. Okay, let's get into it. The big moments of the round. I think this one's a very obvious one. We're going to go straight to the top here. Josh Kennedy's last game, Optus Stadium. Look, people thought he might have a big day. He was sort of talking it up a little bit, saying, I'll be happy for the win and not going to have... He's had one of the best days of his life, one of the biggest career days. And I think he'll be quietly filthy. He kicks 8 on the day, but he misses one late for his 9th, an easy one by his standards.
To put them in front, or at least level.
Level, maybe a point down.
Because the scoreboard was actually a point behind at one stage. So we were looking at that thinking, no, this hopefully gets changed. Anyway, he was terrific. It was a great atmosphere. The great part of yesterday was seeing Josh at the peak of his game, because obviously this is his farewell, and they looked for him a lot, West Coast, which might have been to their detriment. But he kicking 8 goals, you have to go back. I think David Cloak kicked 8 in his final game, right. Going back, I think, for Richmond many moons ago now, but it's very rare.
Is that like in the 70s? 80s?
I think probably in the 80s. But here's a question which we don't know the answer to yet. But how many players do you think pick up Brownlow medal votes in their final game? It's probably a rarity.
Yeah, so I asked the question last night on radio after finishing with Fox Footy. Someone texted through Matthew Richardson, 3 votes in his last game. It just doesn't happen that often, because sometimes they retire in finals games, so of course no Brownlow votes, and then some blokes are just hanging on. So to be the best player on the ground, kick 8 goals too. He had 10 shots on goal. Incredible achievement. And it's a real, I think, a really great way for a champion of the game to go out. I mean, it was a great atmosphere there, wasn't it?
Terrific. 50,000 fans there. It was the game that Eagles supporters wanted to be at. Look, I'm going to put a damper on the occasion.
Oh, no.
You just go to yourself, well, they can't beat Adelaide under those circumstances. 8 goals will be missing next week, and obviously goals moving forward. Oscar Allen's been talked up as the heir apparent. Gee, there's some concerns with West Coast heading into next year, aren't there, with their list?
Yeah, it is going to be an interesting one. They do get players back. Dom Sheed hasn't played all year. Elliot Yeo,
McGovern,
Oscar Allen, McGovern. They're 4 big names. Chesser looked really promising from the very short time we saw him. They'll get him back and into the team. So, that's five players straight off the top of the off the show to come back.
But their older players aren't going to get any better. Is that a fair call?
Correct, but it's not actually about that. Right? If you look across the AFL right now and the teams that are performing, it's not about your list. I know it's good to talk about, and age versus youth and all of that, but it's what you can buy into. It's the culture and the system that you play. Like Collingwood doesn't have the best list, setting second on the ladder. They don't have the best list. You can't tell me they have the second best list in the AFL, but they're playing the second best. So it's about how you perform. So West Coast have the players to perform. They have successful players. They have guys that have done it in the past. It's whether or not they can buy into something that's producive of a good playing style that wins games of footy.
So does Simo have to, in brief, reinvent, not himself, but just maybe change things up over the summer, and because he's been a familiar voice for a long time now?
Yeah. I don't know how that actually looks, but yeah, I just think it is about the way you play and not who's doing it. That's probably how I'd finish that up. Fremantle have locked in their first finals since 2015. That's you've been asking for it for a bit. A success to this season would be a finals victory. Well,
absolutely.
Now they get the opportunity to do that.
And it's so fascinating. The next 2 weekends, we're going to find out whether it's in an elimination final away from home,
yes,
in an elimination final at home, or option C, which is the one we're all hoping for, really, is a qualifying final against a fellow top 4 team.
Which is right on that's on the table.
Well, you think of Collingwood, what they've got to come. You think of what Brisbane have got to come, and Melbourne.
Yes.
They're the teams that I suppose you're hoping if they drop one. I think the Eagles, Dockers will win their last 2 games.
Yep. Melbourne play Carlton and Brisbane. Hard.
And Brisbane up at the Gabba.
Collingwood, Sydney and Carlton. Okay. Geelong, I think they're done and dusted. Sydney, Collingwood and St Kilda. I think Sydney will probably jump up to almost second. So I think Collingwood, Melbourne, Brisbane, Freo, they're the sides fighting for third and fourth.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. Yeah, so the Derby, followed by the Giants, Dockers. Now, you would have had a close look at them. We'll go through that match. But that's a terrific result for them just to get back on that. And I did say this time last week that the faster deck, the roof, Marvel Stadium actually suits them pretty well.
Yeah, and they played really well. We're going to get into that 1 second. Paddy Cripps, Brownlow medal favourite, one of them at least. He was involved in a big incident with Archie from Brisbane. We've had a look at that. Where do you see that sitting? Is he going to miss?
Well, he was concussed, wasn't he, Archie? That's a problem. He left the ground. It wasn't a marking contest per se. Look, the issue is the result. Archie goes off, concussed. That's not going to help Paddy Cripps, irrespective of what Michael Voss might say after the match. So I'm expecting the match review officer will give him, and bear in mind the implications for Brownlow medal are huge here. He's looking at 2 down to 1, or maybe 2 full stop. It's
a funny and hard game sometimes. So it's not a marking contest, which works against Cripps here. If it's a marking contest, I think sometimes it's a bit different. But he didn't have his hands for the ball. He sort of had him protecting himself, and he makes contact with his head. You look at Will Hamill yesterday, goes back with courage and gets absolutely cleaned up and knocked out, and it's the same outcome, but nothing will come of that because it was a marking contest. Whereas this Cripps one, it's a change in a millisecond, is a change in how your hands are sat, whether they're by your side or above your head, and
it's a result as well. It's the result. Yeah, and that's the issue for Paddy Cripps. We love him as a player. He's a gun. And isn't it funny where one Northampton great is farewelled in such spectacular fashion that another Northampton product is under a big question mark for the Brownlow this year. And not just that, forget the Brownlow. He doesn't play the next 2 weeks. Hard to see Carlton making the finals.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the bigger issue is there. We're going to get into that when we follow Carlton. Let's jump over to the West Coast and Fremantle wrap from the weekend. We've spoken a bit about the West Coast game, so let's start with Freo. Fremantle defeat the Bulldogs by 17 points in a really, really big victory for the side. Freo back to form, maybe not, but they definitely looked like they played a more up-tempo style. Their transition was better. They looked to take the game on a lot. And that wasn't playing on and just handballing willy-nilly. And, you think about Essendon sort of does that, run and gun. It wasn't that. It was movement with the footy. So every time the player got it, Justin Longmuir spoke about this on 6PR, speak about energy as the ball carrier. So when you get it, not just sort of getting off your mark and slowly turning around, it's get it, turn around quickly, have a look what's going on, look down the line, look inside, and you're really energetic. And that's how they move the footy. And it makes it hard to defend. And then they got the space, and then it opened up, and they were able to, hold against the Western Bulldogs. They kept coming all day. It was a really great game and good to watch. Fremantle was good to watch again.
Absolutely, attractive footy, and the downside, Matt Taberner with that calf injury, but Rory Lobb. Now, all the talk is that he's going to end up at the Western Bulldogs. Not a bad audition. Kicking 4 goals, outside 50. He really found his groove, and this is clearly his best season at the Dockers.
Put GWS in there as well, yeah.
So, unfortunately, if he is leaving, then what does that say about Fremantle moving forward? Anyway, that's to be decided at the end of the season, but he was outstanding. Luke Ryan, if he doesn't get Brownlow votes, he'd have to be in the mix with 32 touches, 15 marks, a few late in the piece just by virtue of them just chipping the ball around, but he was outstanding. So there's a lot to like about Fremantle. Can they continue in that vein for the next, 2, 3, 4 weeks?
Yeah, well, they'll need to. If they want to play top 4, they'll need to play like that. It gives you a lot of confidence as a playing group. When you've played, so they played 3 poor games in a row. They couldn't score. They couldn't get the ball moving. And you come out and do it 1 week, and it gives you the beginning of confidence. But to build a pattern, they'll need to do it in the next 2 weeks to then seriously challenge for finals. The point I'm making about the energy with the football, it's... People think sometimes when the ball's moving slow, it's because they aren't playing on and running. You can move the ball quicker with the ball than you can running around and having guys breaking the lines. That's why, think about Hawthorn back in the day. Didn't have any quick players. They were slow, actually. But Hodge, Lewis, Mitchell.
The kicking skills were elite.
Yeah, so even Birchall. None of them's...
A lot of lefties as well.
Yeah, correct. And no one fast. You don't need to have a fast team running to move the ball fast. And that's what Freo did, and that's why they'll be really pleased. It wasn't risky. It wasn't something that was hard to turn over. And when you do that, you can defend behind it still, which they were able to do. So a lot of big ticks. I loved what I saw. Flag mantle, back on the cards. Get your jumpers. backchatpodcast.com.au /merch. It is well and truly on. The West Coast game, Skeet, we both tipped Freo there. Oh, no, you tipped the Bulldogs. Very good. Very great start to the weekend. Absolutely.
I told you I had a very poor weekend on the... When I came on the punt, though, just in case you care to worry, that's more... what do they say? You drive for show and putt for dough, well, you punt for dough. That's what I do.
Oh, my gosh. We both tipped West Coast Eagles here, so... there City. You go. Well, no surprises there. They went close. They probably... Not could have or should have, but Bailey Williams has a shot late. Not sure where Snicko came from. I haven't seen that all year at Optus Stadium.
How did he even kick into the post? He was on the goal line, and then he drops a chest mark about 60 seconds later.
Disappointing. Josh Kennedy, he'll love the 8 goals, but I know him well. He'll be absolutely filthy with himself that he misses that goal to give them the chance. But, credit where credit's due. Adelaide were very good. Rory led in his 200th game, kicked 2 goals to his first 2 kicks of the game.
Is it, you mentioned JK, you're saying best of field ahead of Rory led?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the 2 goals makes it a contest, doesn't it? But it was almost like the game hadn't started. It was clearance goal, and they were both the Rory Laird. So, look, he plays a great game, and he's had a great career. He was rookie listed, I believe, and a backman, absolute battling backman, not a battling backman. I threw that out to him on the Fox Footy coverage. I said, "You used to be a backman. What are you doing in the midfield now?" And I'll tell you what he's doing. He's just having the best season ever. He's a lock for All-Australian. He's been outstanding, and he leads his team to a win. But it was all about Josh Kennedy. Masks in the crowd as Blink-182 playing Josh's favourite band. And, I just thought the club did it really well.
Yeah, it was. It was a great pre-game and post-game was a nice touch, as we see quite often, the Adelaide Crows lining up and Josh being chaired off. He did the slow lap with his daughters around the ground, and it was nice. It was, my mum and my daughter went to the game, and they said, "Dad, that was best day of the footy I could have hoped for this year," because obviously Eagle supporters haven't had much joy. But I think there wasn't too many people left. I mean, there's no chance of playing finals, but would have been nice for the victory. But to see Josh in his final game perform as he did, I think everyone goes away with a smile.
Big crowd. I've got a couple of points here. So big crowd. So I did the call out, said make sure you get there. Hand your memberships back if you don't go. Well, thank you for listening, because there was a big crowd there, right? Over 50,000. Biggest crowd of the year, I believe, for West Coast. Second one I want to talk about, Tom Barrass dominated Walker all day. Yep. I'm going to put him up there as... I reckon he's best and fairest favourite at the moment.
Yeah,
I
reckon
he's been best player for West Coast this season.
Yeah, I don't think you're saying that's a surprise or not. I think he's in front. There's no. Yeah. Is there a challenger of sorts? I mean,
Tim Kelly's been very good. I would say he's been very. Yeah, but he has been. This has been his best season as a West Coast Eagle. Tim Kelly
and Jack Redden's had consistent year, but no, Tom Barrass has been. I think, he'd be clearly the John Worsfold medalist if they stop the voting now. In fact, even if they stop it in 2 weeks.
And he's finishing off he's played some really good games the last week.
Looked like he had a bit of a sore back yesterday, but he battled on.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he keeps Walker to, not many, maybe one goal. Kennedy kicks 8. Fogarty's a good player. He kicks 3 goals in the last quarter.
Big body.
He seems like he could be anything, and we're sort of waiting for him to almost take over the competition because he does some things and unstoppable. But he goes well. 4 goals. Great win to the Adelaide Crows, and we both missed the tip. Let's get into the rest of the round. Here on the Shelter FootyCast. Mark Reddings, Will Schofield. Big Friday night footy. I thought this was the game of the round in terms of how it was played.
No. Game of the year.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say what happened this week that I missed. I thought you were pulling me up.
No.
It was unreal, wasn't it?
Terrific.
Collingwood v Melbourne. Collingwood win by 7 points. Can't believe it. We both picked Melbourne.
Oh, hello.
I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way as I do. It was never luck for Collingwood. You can't win 11 in a row by luck, or 10 in a row, which was last week. But because of the short nature of them and the low wins, you kind of felt like, was it real or not? Does this validate it? Does this mean they're the real deal? I mean, whether or not you have to say that, second place on the ladder.
Well, you've just noticed as I walked in, you've put some more shirts out there with flagging wood there. So you're trying to have a bit each way,
Flagging wood. Very good. Flagging wood. That's yours. That's Mark Redding's flagging wood.
I mean, no Collingwood Nuffy's going to start. Look, we've got seriously, there's about 6, it's like a barley workshop in here.
It's actually flag pies. You like that? You like that?
Well, I just thought of it on the run there, but that's okay. Yes, it's real. They are real. They're great to watch.
Yeah.
And look, apart from going through the fact that they looked gone a couple of times against Melbourne, Ed Langdon comments pre-match as a player, talking about all duck no dinner, which means all glory or they fail, or one-trick ponies.
Yeah.
Players, do they use that type of inane sort of throwaway line on radio as motivation? I say yes.
Well, apparently they did. Didn't they have it on the whiteboard? I heard there was printouts on lockers.
Oh, well, put it this way. Craig McRae came out afterwards and said, I think it's great for the game. People saying what they want. The media loves that. And then little bit did we know until we heard a little bit on radio. I think it was 3AW I was listening to. I mean, Braden Maynard say, oh, yeah, it was on the whiteboard. It was up there for us all to see. And, of course, when Langdon got the ball for the first time, he was absolutely crunched.
And how good was that? That was actually so great to see. In terms of the comments, I like them. The timing of them means to me, it actually wasn't Ed Langdon's thoughts. He would have come out of a team meeting, right, and then done media. I think it was about a Thursday he said them. So Melbourne internally were saying that, and whether Ed or not forgot his filter, his media filter, but he's chucked out what they'd said internally, that they only go one way. If you challenge and put pressure on them, they don't stand up under that, which may or may not be right. Maybe Melbourne didn't execute it, but I thought his honesty, whether it's just forgetting the filter or whatever, I thought it was great. Loved it.
I do. But he's a couple of times now. He came out last year, I think it was, and said, great to be where I can, at a club where I can wear long sleeve jumpers and I can go into a locker room, and if I don't look at the coach in the eye, I don't get shouted at. So he's having a good dash at Ross Lyon as well. But anyway, that being said, 11 wins in a row.
What about Ash Johnson?
4 goals.
Yeah.
That's extraordinary. And look, the great thing about Collingwood, as you say about their list, the difference between their best and their worst performers is so minimal now. And and I just very quickly, I'm interested in this because Collingwood, Melbourne, Geelong have all won 10 in a row at various stages this season, which I think is the first time for decade upon decade.
Wow.
When you win these close matches, and this is a trend that I think you've even been involved with the belief, the mindset, as you would say, of clubs or players in tight matches. How beneficial is that for Collingwood at the moment?
Yeah, well, it's gone to elite, amazing levels. Like, they would just think, no matter what happens in a game, we're going to get back to a position where we can win it, and we're probably going to win it. And so until it stops happening, that just keeps, it's like belief on it. It's just compounding interest, probably like your bank account, to be honest. It just keeps going up and up. Don't you smirk at me like that?
With twin daughters who are 21 who still live at home, don't think that I've had a soft ride. Although I've got you covered. You've got about another 18, 20 years of
Don't worry, you're holding yourself together very well, Skeet. I admire you from a long way back. Collingwood going just incredibly well.
Can they win it?
I suppose. Yeah, I suppose they can. You know, you wouldn't want to write them off, would you? As a punter, as a tipper, as anything, you wouldn't want to go into a game thinking, well, Collingwood can't win this. You're never going to think that all year.
Collingwood v Melbourne grand final, Collingwood v Geelong grand final, or Geelong Melbourne. I'm just talking from a Victorian centric position.
Yes,
it's shaping up relatively well.
Yeah, very good. I mean, Fremantle Collingwood grand final would be pretty nice as well, and I don't think many people would have thought that was happening.
True.
Hawthorn defeat Gold Coast by 7. Skeet picks the mighty Gold Coast Suns.
They are a rabble, absolute rabble of a club.
And as perpetuated, that is not a word. That is not a word.
He's on the gas.
Not as predicted on Thursday.
Yes.
I pick Hawthorn.
Yeah, no, it's Ben McAvoy's 250th. They're playing in Launceston. I must have been in Gaga land because they started really well. Hawks in Tassie, always tough to beat. Gunston was outstanding. And no, I'm serious about this. The Gold Coast, I mean, we keep saying 2023. They get Max King back. They'll be fine. What's going to happen to them? Are they just going to keep being that middle of the road, a bit like the Gold Coast Titans in the NRL are shite? And so are they going to be that another Gold Coast franchise that just keeps... I thought they were looking good middle of the season. Like around when Stuart Dew, they had a couple more wins, and I thought where they were sitting in the mid part of the season, that they were going to challenge for that 6th, 7th, 8th spot. But they've clearly fallen right away. You know, is it missing a big forward target? I mean, Chol and Casbolt have been okay. They've been
good.
They've
been good.
Chol's been a really good pickup.
So they've had the targets in front of the footy, haven't they? So is it the way they play their footy? Is it the offensive nature? I always thought that for Gold Coast to be good this year, they needed to be a really attacking side. They weren't going to build it off, their strong back line and the way their midfield defends. They're just not built like that. So do they need to double down on the offensive nature and just get more ball, or can they defend better behind the footy? Because Hawthorn's no amazing team either, and Hawthorn disposes of them at home at Tasmania.
12th season for the Gold Coast, and still no love for them really. And given there's no implication for the finals, you get the tip, we move on.
A bit of a shout out to Jai Sarong, Caleb's brother, played his first game, 9 touches, 3 marks, 3 tackles. GWS defeat Essendon by 27, both tipped Essendon. Why did I pick Essendon?
Well, why did I tip Essendon?
Because you would have. I remember talking about GWS, and you said something about Essendon that put me over the edge, I think. Like, why would you go and do that? They're no good. They're actually no good, Essendon.
Well, that's been proven, and they haven't played well away from home this year. The Giants, who were pathetic in the showdown the week, the big battle of the bridge.
As called by their coach, and so there was this big blow-up about McVeigh's comments in the media public, you can't dress your players down. Well, he does, and they come out and play well. They win by almost 5 goals. Where does that sit him in terms of his coaching credentials for next year? Well,
there's so much talk, and there's not much point going into too much depth about the game because 27 points, Stringer was well held, Whitfield had 29 touches, but it's a question mark about the coaching at Giants now, isn't it? Is it James Hird? Does he get that opportunity? Is it Alistair Clarkson, who's obviously North Melbourne's right into him? Or does the bloke who's got it now keep it? I don't think he does keep it, Mark McVeigh.
Yeah, it's the relationships aspect in footy is very big, and GWS will know that to bring a brand new coach in that doesn't know any of these players may get a short-term result either way. It could really give them an uptick, could give them a really big downtick in the short term, but over the longer term, it's going to take longer for results to continuously happen with a brand new coach in there, because they're going to have to get to know the club, the staff, everyone's going to get to know them, and then the players need to, learn a new game style, form new relationships with a new coach. There's a lot more risk in getting a new coach in my opinion. It would be safer to take a McVeigh who holds those relationships in the first place.
Yeah, fair call. And look, just in contrast to the Gold Coast Suns' 12 seasons without finals, Giants, now look, they've always got trouble maintaining players, their salary cap, etc. They now, I think you'd have to say, despite not winning a flag, they've been in a grand final, they've played in finals. There is the bones there for them to hopefully have some success. So Jesse Hogan, by the way, kicking 4 goals, which was a good effort. Jesse, I think he'd love being over there, just being able to cruise around without being noticed, without any attention on him, and just play some footy.
Yeah, well, he was, having some, reported, personal issues, and from all reports back the other way, he's really, dug down, focused on his footy, and looks to be, playing well. Kicks 4 goals on the weekend. Geelong defeat St Kilda by 45. Both tipped Geelong, of course. Geelong 11 in a row. How about this stat? First game since Dangerfield's Geelong debut that neither Selwood or Dangerfield were in the side.
That's interesting.
That's incredible, I think.
Good stat, because Selwood's been managed as he was at the weekend.
Yep.
And Dangerfield, the late out was for what reason?
Don't know.
No.
But they pulled him and Mark...
Blixovs?
Thank you. I actually can't say his last name.
We're not Sperry, by the way.
Yeah, I cannot. I'm not even attempt it these days. They both are late withdrawals, but it doesn't seem to faze Geelong. St Kilda are, I think they can they.
No, well, I think where are they? They're just outside the 8 or inside the 8.
I think they drop out to 9th on the back of that. And
they're a long way off the better sides, aren't they?
Yeah, well, they're 2 points back from Richmond. 4 points back from Carlton. They have the Western Bulldogs behind them. I think it's a stretch for the Bulldogs to make finals. They'll need Richmond to lose both of their games. Well, both these teams probably will to make it. So they are in the running. They're more in the running than the Western Bulldogs are at the moment.
Absolutely. And look, the question is, Chris Scott, let's be honest, he's copped a lot of heat over the last few years about the team making the finals, not being able to get a result in September. And look, it might happen again this year. But wouldn't you rather be in the conversation in September as opposed to falling away? And they've had this innate ability to be around the mark. And Hawkins kicks 3, Smith kicks 3 on the weekend. Stengel's been terrific. He booted 2 on the weekend
against his old side.
Yeah, and Cameron.
No, absolutely not.
It was Adelaide, wasn't it?
Yeah, thank you.
And Stengel with 2, Cameron with 2. They are just a team that you think if they've judged their run like a Melbourne Cup to perfection, they are getting the Selwood, they're getting Dangerfield, cherry ripe for September.
Yeah, Crouch is having a good season for St Kilda. He has 28 touches. Higgins a memory with 2, but St Kilda they're about a near enough team, but they're not going to challenge come finals time, even if they do make it, in my opinion. Richmond defeat Port Adelaide by 38 points. Both tip Richmond. Congratulations, Skate, you're back on the board. Richmond ends Port's season and enters top 8. I think Port's season was probably done before this game, but officially over now.
Yep.
And Richmond enter that top 8. So they'll still be ruining the close games that they've missed, as Collingwood's been able to convert every single one they've been in. Richmond's probably been the opposite this season. So they still are a good side, and they just need to get themselves into finals. They need to will themselves there. And they know what happens when September comes around. They know how to do the dance there. They get there and they're a big chance.
Absolutely. If they get some bodies back. Now, it's important Dustin Martin and Dylan Grimes return to that side. So if they can do that, then they will find themselves in the mix. One of the incidents on the weekend which caught our attention was Marlon Pickett, who was having a shot for goal long range, and he was getting some chirp from a fan. And this is something I reckon you do. You just have a turn around and have a yak back. What did you make of it?
He turns to them and says, "Watch this," and then tells them to shut right up. He just turns around, gives them the shh. I think it looked like a couple of young guys. Didn't look. I don't think it was just banter.
Yeah.
And it looked like Marlon Pickett liked it and told him, "You just watch this, young fella. Sit down." Put it straight through them. A beautiful kick. I mean, he's been a great pickup for them. He's played outstanding footy. What about Nank the Tank? 29 touches, 4 marks, 8 clearances, 42 hit-outs, and 5 inside 50s. I mean, that's a bloody good game for a ruckman. Nankervis, not known for his huge touching games. He's the captain of the footy club, obviously, with Grimes now out for the season. He's out with a long-term hamstring. They've said that unless they make a prelim or grand final, he'll miss the year. Nankervis now steps into the standalone captain spot and looks like he likes the leadership.
He does, and look, he led from the front. He's a behemoth, as they say. Lynch with 4 goals. You like that word,
Yes.
Scully?
And your boy, Shea.
My boy, Shea Bolton with 4 as well. Their team, I think they'll stay there, Richmond, by the way. I'm not sure they'll run home. I think we've got Hawthorn to come and maybe Essendon off the top of my head. Richmond, that being said, if they make the finals, I think they... No, I'm not saying they win it, but I think, you just fear a Richmond side, particularly if you're drawn to meet them at the MCG in an elimination final.
They had to step up in that game. I mean, the scores were pretty much level in the third quarter at Adelaide Oval. It's a hard place to win there, and they went to another level in the fourth quarter. Port couldn't match it, and Richmond progressed, and I think you're right. I think they play finals after the next 2 weeks that they've got. Sydney defeat North Melbourne by 38 points. Scoreline probably flattering in this one a little bit. North Melbourne were able to kick some later goals. Unsurprisingly, Sydney get the win. Sydney really continue to build on this, last part of the season form that they're putting together. Jai Simpkin for the North Melbourne Footy Club, he's had a really good year. I don't think he plays All-Australian, but he'll be in the conversation. 31 touches for him. And Parker and Goulden, again, very, very important to Sydney's game style.
Yeah, and Nick Larkey kicked 7 goals, which, now I'm thinking more Fremantle here. I know they're big into Luke Jackson, but Larkey's more that player. You think, gee, if you get him to your footy club, he probably makes more sense given Lob's going to depart by all accounts. So, look, Nick Larkey, I have no idea what his status is contractually, but he's one of those guys that you think he's a better fit for Fremantle, I think, at the moment than what Luke Jackson is.
Yes.
Because of their forward setup. And that's...
Yeah, you'd think that Freo need a key forward rather than a hybrid. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. And look, this bloke playing in a dud side, to be fair, is one of those. Buddy Franklin kicks 4 goals, Papley with 3. You call this, in fact, you call this well before the last month about Sydney being a team. And I was with you in part on that, though. And the run home they have means that you're right. They could very well finish top 2. And from there, once you get home finals, provided they can play them at the SCG, because they love the SCG. So I think Sydney with a huge upside.
Jaden Stevenson, I know we don't like pointing out negative things, but he had a couple of absolute howlers on the weekend. Kicked out Lance Franklin, who somehow still looks $1 million, by the way. He looks incredible. He kicks the 4 goals. One of them, he intercepted a kick out. Jaden Stevenson.
Put his head down.
He put it, not even head down. He started facing the cheer squad, hands on his head. Buddy saw him. You saw Buddy as well. And I reckon Buddy wanted to just fizz it past his head, like just clip his ears, because he could have kicked it and he kept running at him, and he finally turned around. It was too late, kicked it past him. He had another one where he was just drifting into space. Rather than just talking about Jaden, the whole North Melbourne Footy Club, there's 2 games to go. The season's done and dusted. That a win for them would be not winning the spoon, right?
True.
So there is motivation. That's certainly a thing. I know the West Coast players will be the same. There is something to play for. It's not nothing. And even though this is a lost season, you can actually learn things to take into the following season by finishing the season well. So switching off and just drifting through games isn't going to do that. So that's what Stevenson's reactions represent for me, is can they, for the last 2 rounds, switch on and win a game and not win the spoon.
Yeah, and Jaden Stevenson, look, he was the NAB rising star. I think he kicked about 40 goals for Collingwood. Remember him coming over here playing for North Melbourne, kicked 5 goals or thereabouts against West Coast.
The long sleeves, maybe?
In the wet. Might have been a Monday night game. Well, it was certainly a weird midweek, might have been COVID times.
Yeah.
And, look, it's sad to see guys, because he comes in with great expectations, wins the NAB Rising Star, and then whether he's lost his way a fraction is the question. But, North Melbourne, unfortunately, I can't see them winning either of their last 2 anyway.
Yep, very good. Brisbane defeat Carlton on Sunday, 33 points. Both tip Brisbane, well done. Carlton are slipping and sliding, and we don't know where it's going to end for them. And then if, Paddy Cripps, their leader, he finds his way out of the team after a big hit. I would love to see them playing finals. They got Collingwood in that last week of the finals.
Melbourne this week.
Yeah, correct. But this game in particular, Neil is best on ground for Brisbane. First goal scorer, 32 touches. He's having another great year. I think he's All-Australian, and he'll be really close to the Brownlow medal again, which is difficult to do. He won one 2 years ago, and to find yourself back in the mix, to continue playing that great footy. He's been an incredible player for Brisbane.
No question about that. McStay booted 4 goals, Bailey 4. McStay, by the way, this is his last season at Brisbane. If all the whispers are right, he's heading off.
Where's he off to?
Collingwood, they say.
Right.
So if that's the case, Dan McStay, hoping to go out on a high. The Blues, they stormed home. They absolutely stormed home. It says 33 points, which is a convincing win in the end. But their inability to compete through the first, 3 quarters, really.
Yeah.
They were getting smacked. And then to come home with a bit of a flurry, then Brisbane hit back late with some goals. So, it's tough to see Carlton now. They've got
Melbourne and Collingwood.
Melbourne and Collingwood win, one of those 2, don't they?
Yeah, well, they do to stay in finals. Because if they lose them both, they're on 48 points currently. Western Bulldogs can catch them if they win. If Bulldogs win 2, Carlton lose 2. So they can be equal on points, probably jump in percentage because they're only 2 points a percentage. And then Richmond, of course, are half a game back. And even St Kilda are only 1 game back. So they need to win 1 to even be in the conversation for finals, which, let's be honest, 6 weeks ago, that wasn't the chat.
Unthinkable, wasn't it? And just quickly, Carlton, with their season in the balance, Brisbane, because it's the Gabba, do you still have them as contenders? I just can't. I had them as my pre-season premiers, but they can't win at the MCG. That's a huge factor.
Yeah, so how do you turn that around as a playing group, the inability to win away from home? Do they look back at, 2 years ago, the Gabba Grand Final as one that was really missed by them? I think, did they get beaten by the Bulldogs?
In a prelim?
Oh, no, that was last year. Bailey Smith kicks that goal to take them over here, but more so when the whole final series was at the Gabba, and you look at that and you think it's a real opportunity missed, right?
I think Geelong got them at the Gabba.
Yeah, but they will have to play away from the Gabba to win it. As a player, we certainly had times like that, the MCG for us, even just away from home in general. It is a thing. Players say, coaches say it's not a thing anywhere, anytime. Well, Ross Lyon, that all gets rolled out, but it affects you because footy players may seem basic, Skeet, but not stupid. Like, you do understand when you can't play the same way away from home. Why is the reason? I can't really answer it, but it is a thing.
And Geelong is the greatest example of going somewhere where that's the case. Anyway, we've diverted from the issue, which is Brisbane stay in the mix, and Fremantle fans are hoping they lose unexpectedly, that Collingwood lose, Melbourne loses. So things have to go Freo's way, but see, big couple of weeks coming up.
Shelter FootyCast, Mark Reddings, Will Schofield. Shelter XPA X Factor.
Does he need these? Does he really
I reckon he does. I reckon it's about time. Josh Kennedy, 8 goals. Final game. The script had been written. The story had been finalised. The last page just had to go in, and he's written it in gold ink.
Yeah, well, I had him down for 5 goals last week, and I was a bit shallow. I think you might have been about the same as well.
Yeah, I started on the coverage. Got a bit carried away, Skeet. I started calling for 10 goals early.
Well, Chris Marston, I interviewed him at a function on Friday. Masto said, he could kick 10. That was and you know what? You weren't far off the mark.
Well, he has 10 shots on goal, and when he starts kicking them from, it's that favoured side for him. That the far pocket, the right hand pocket. It kind of. His kick, you know the kick. It's sort of like it gets up in the wind almost, but there's not wind. It's the way his shape, and it just beautifully shapes in nicely.
I called a couple of times. Oh, it's going left. It's not online.
Yeah,
and then he's kicked
the vortex.
The vortex on whoosh.
Yeah, it was great to watch.
So will he enjoy retirement in that aspect, and he'll quite happily sit back and have a shelter or two in his.
I think there should be grave concerns for his skin folds, Josh Kennedy. Because he's a big fella. Some guys are tall and skinny. I would say I'm skinny, and I'm not saying my skin folds have fared too well after footy either. But Josh, he's a big boy, and he's had to work very hard, and that's what's made him a great player, his work rate, to keep himself in shape.
You'll see Coxie was
That's correct.
Yeah.
You can speak to some of the best, and this is not having a go. It's bloody hard out here, Skate. Keep yourself in nick.
Well, tell me about it when you weren't in nick in the first place.
Correct.
It's hard yakka.
So R.I.P. Josh Kennedy's skin folds. We get the Shelter XPAs for the X Factor of the week. If you want to send in any questions, any stories, FootyCast at shelterbrewing.com.au. We've got a couple of questions.
Oh, good.
Skate.
Yeah.
Hi, lads. I hate to write to you under these circumstances, but I'd like to draw your attention to Skeeter's Instagram post dated Christmas Day 2021.
Oh, good.
Have you seen this?
No, well, probably
not. Hang on, go up. Where he can be seen posing for a photo with his beautiful family, I might add, on his tippy toes. You're on your tippy toes next to your 2 daughters and your wife.
Yeah, because they're all tall, and the reason, I think, was because...
you're really up on the tippy toes.
I do that with mates of mine, so if I'm with you, I sort of hold you down and get them a tippy toes to push the person I'm with down so I look taller. Who is that clown guy? I'm going to track him down.
Who's it from? Whatever the opposite of a Christmas miracle is, this is it. Skeeter, this has me questioning the validity of the footy analysis that you give each week. Please explain. Cheers. Diego, West Melbourne.
Well, Diego, you're a dropkick. Seriously. Diego, thank you for that. If you do, look,
that's very good material. If we get a bit more of that coming through, that's about as good as it gets.
It's like the bounce, is it on? So just take the piss out of someone like the Chief.
Yeah,
and
the
I'm
Chief.
just going to be the fall guy. No, that's well done, Diego from West Melbourne. If you are real, let's one day have a beer together.
Very good. Socials on Shelter FootyCast on Instagram. You can watch us on YouTube. Listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. Federal Hotel, big event this Friday. Make sure you get down there. There'll be beers on tap. There'll be free beers getting handed around. I think there's a meat raffle doing the Derby preview.
Skimpies?
No.
No,
That's the way we take this one out. Very good. We'll see you at the Federal.